I haven't. Well, not yet, at least. I've been making art for the past 3 years, and over the course of that time, I've made tens and thousands of dollars, either towards my art and some of it in my pocket. And I want to say that is not a flex. I just think being transparent in these sort of videos is important because I know that there are people actually watching this who are really considering becoming an artist, and they have to think about these things, right? And in me being honest and telling you sort of what I've made gives you a little bit of reassurance that what I've done is quote unquote right, and that what I have to say is worthwhile for you to listen to. And there are 4 points that I want to talk about in this video: applying for grants, investing/sacrificing, and I want to end off with talking about the best piece of advice that I was ever given. But first, let's talk about where it started. I started making art back in 2020, but we could say my art career began in 2019. So I was a freshman at college, and one of the things that I was required to do was do work study. And if you don't know what that is, work study is essentially having a job on campus and earning some money, but you also get paid towards your tuition. So I was trying to find a job, and one of the standard jobs was working in the cafeteria, which I did not want to do. So when I was looking for some other jobs that I thought would be fun, there was one that came up that was an environmental studies social media coordinator. And essentially what it boiled down to was updating their website and Instagram. Now, and I feel like I should let you know that I was not interested in environmental studies at all. I went into college as a psychology and Spanish major, although I didn't declare it. It was just something that I was thinking about doing. So not even art was in my, trajectory. So this will sort of play in with the other points that I'm making, but I went into this job not knowing anything about social media, right? I had some private Instagram accounts, but never something successful, quote unquote. So I chose this just as an opportunity to learn and to do something other than just clean dishes for hours. But from that job, I learned so much about social media. I didn't really learn that much from social media from that job. I feel like the office kind of just didn't know what they were doing. I still think they're great, but they just really didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what I was doing. But that job got me interested in social media in general, right? Building up a following, posting, editing, all that jazz. So I was doing that job into the second semester of college. In that semester, I took my first art class, which was just fundamentals, just to get my requirement done. And in that class, I really found that I enjoyed making art. And during the pandemic, when it eventually did hit, I started just making art on my own, just all the time, sketching. I started oil painting, finding videos on YouTube, getting really into it. And then the fall came and it was time to choose more classes, and I chose the digital art class because I enjoyed the job as social media coordinator, which I was technically still doing, but it was very complicated because the person who was organizing it left. Nevertheless, I was very interested in it. So I took a digital media job, but I wanted to move more into that. So I was taking the class and I got along with the professor and she really liked me. She offered me a job as a digital art media lab manager. So I would essentially be in this room for 6 hours out of the week, sitting down, being surrounded by computers, all of which are downloaded with the Adobe Suite. And I had the opportunity to just learn and practice my craft there. And this is sort of like the ideal job, I would say, in college, because people usually say work for the library, right? Library jobs are kind of tough to get in my school because we didn't have such a big one. But this was sort of the second best because I was around art. I was always in the art studio, and I had this opportunity to experiment and learn there. And from there, I really started getting into, editing photos on Photoshop, editing videos in Premiere Pro, and also the class, I was taking that as well. So everything was sort of working out together. And my prior experiences in the ENVS helped me get to this point. I will also mention that accepting that ENVS job led to more jobs in environmental studies, which is kind of funny because, again, I just wasn't really interested in it. I was interested in it, but it wasn't like a career path, I feel like I should say. So from that job, from that first social media job, I got connected to the head of the department, and she had another opportunity for me, which was helping edit a documentary for a greater story on campus that was about the Native American population that was there, the indigenous tribe of the Nipmuc Nation in central Massachusetts, and I was going to be a part of the research and editing team. My main job was to make a short form video that was to be posted on Instagram and YouTube and stuff. So I pounced at that opportunity because I had taken the ENVS job at first, so I knew a little bit about it, and then I had the opportunity to learn and develop those skills, and it all came together into this one documentary project. And again, that one I didn't really learn or experience that much, but I was just in the field. I was there. I have experience. I learned a good amount of things. I worked with professionals. I worked with a professional at my school. So that was what you just need, right? You just need to say yes. And then from there, I, continued to snowball. Things got greater and greater doing social media work. And I eventually applied for a grant, which we'll talk about next. My school had this opportunity where you could apply for an internship grant to be able to work wherever you want, as long as you could convince them, and they will give you money to work with some sort of organization. So given that career trajectory, I was able to say, hey, I've done social media, I'm interested in art, I want to work for a local muralist, which I had met during an event, which is a whole nother story because I applied for another grant and there was a whole mural festival going on and I met him and he's a local guy. And I was like, and it was the year after, and I was just like, I want to work with this guy. I want to be a social media manager. I spoke a lot about that. And they said yes. So this was my first opportunity to both be able to paint with a muralist and edit and record and film and take pictures and just be around that, right? So you could see that everything sort of builds up and it's just all about saying yes and applying and being there. So now let's talk about how grants sort of fit into all of this. Now, grants are where the majority of my income comes from, so to speak. There's a lot of things that, revolve around grants, including finding one and applying for one and, what to do when you actually get one. But let me talk about applying for them because, finding them, it just depends on where you live, all that jazz. But applying, they're basically going to want you to convince them why you deserve it. So, like what I was saying before, a lot of it is a personal trajectory. What have you done in the past that shows you that you are worthy of this money, that you're worthy of doing this in the future, and that this would help you and it would help the people that you're helping. There's like a city or state or like organization interest in it because it's not just a one-way thing. So I think the best way to explain this is with an example. So when I was in Worcester, Massachusetts, when I was going to school in Massachusetts, College of the Holy Cross, I was always looking up grants because I thought that this was the way to make money. And, it kind of turned out to be that it was. So when I was in Worcester, there was something called the Worcester Arts Council. So the government has to allocate at least 1% of funding towards the arts. So every state has this. So I would recommend looking into that. But in Massachusetts, in Worcester, it was called the Worcester Arts Council. There was also the Massachusetts Cultural Council, and each sort of place had their own council. So the Worcester Arts Council was basically a website and an Instagram page that I found. And they always announced grant cycles, which was once a year around August, maybe sometimes a little bit different depending on where they get the money. I think it was about August of 2022. They had a grant cycle that was opening up, and it was called Artist Grants for Individuals. And they had a set of parameters, which was like, what is your project and how does it fit with your trajectory and how is it going to improve the Worcester community? I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I know that they were giving out $10,000 at the very highest, and I wanted to get that. So with me going into the personal trajectory, right? I keep using this phrase, but this is so important, of moving into murals, right? I had assisted an artist already. I had some murals under my belt because I volunteered my time, which we'll talk about it again later on. I wanted to paint a mural somewhere in the city of Worcester and have them pay for it. That summer when I was applying, I was hustling. I was emailing everyone. I was calling up businesses. I was going in person and nothing was working. But, I thought of a specific story of painting a mural nearby Holy Cross in order to, engage and get students off of campus, right? It was on a hill, so off the hill and into the city of Worcester. So I looked up the nearest elementary schools and I found an elementary school that was right down the road, and I emailed them and I didn't hear back for a long time, honestly, because I started this process really early. But eventually they got back and we started talking about it, and I was able to get their cosign to paint one of their walls. And it was magical. It was great. And essentially, I just applied for that project, talking about the importance of getting Holy Cross students down the hill, interacting with students while I was painting, livening up their space. It was the largest elementary school in the city of Worcester, so that was important. So all that sort of worked together, and I applied for the grant, and I got it. They awarded me it. The city of Worcester is pretty slow, so I haven't fully been paid yet. Can you imagine that? Over a year later? Crazy. But anyways, it all worked out. And it's all about the way you're phrasing it and the way that you read what they want, right? So that it fits in, because when you think about it, the people that are reading it are just volunteers. So as long as it fits within the parameters that they specifically ask for and it sounds like a good project, they're going to give it to you, right? In Worcester, there wasn't too much a competition, so that also helped me. But, it all depends on where you are and where you're from. But grants are entirely the most important thing that I've done in my art career, period. point blank. And next, we'll talk about investing. Now, investing, I don't mean, putting money on the stock market, although it can be for money. I am specifically talking about taking up opportunities and engaging with people and essentially investing time in order to learn something or be involved with something, right? So when I was in college, I invested a lot of time in art, watching YouTube, doing projects on my own, going to art events and speaking with other artists, going to mural festivals, right? So there's sacrifices that I had to make that possible. Obviously, I couldn't, balance work life, school, social life, all of that, and do this all. So, investing / sacrificing a lot of that. And when we talk about investing money, that's also an important part. And it's important to invest money into actually important things towards your career, right? So when it comes to applying grants, they just give you the money, right? But then sometimes there might be an application fee. So it's like, okay, I'm going to invest $15 into this application fee to apply for that. What you don't do is invest in things that are not going to help you, right? I think there are some luxuries in life, and there's other things that are more important to invest in. So this lighting rig behind me was an investment that I made only recently because I thought it was a worthwhile investment for my studio, my videos, my paintings, and all that, right? I think also classes are a good investment, right? Either in person or online, learning a skill, right? Because you want to develop a skill to sell as an artist. What you shouldn't invest in is like fancy supplies unless it's absolutely necessary, or if you're doing social media for a video. And there's of course a lot of things that you should and shouldn't invest in and put money into. But if you'd like me to make sort of a comprehensive list of things that, I bought and maybe things that you can buy early on in your art career and what's worthwhile, let me know in the comments. Also, consider subscribing. I make videos. I make a lot of videos. I've learned. I didn't know that I upload almost daily this past week that I'm recording this. So if you're enjoying this, consider subscribing. Consider liking the video, all that jazz. I appreciate you. Sorry with all my hands and stuff. I'm realizing that I'm using them a lot. Now for the most important point, the best piece of advice that I was ever given, and you've probably heard it before, and it is fake it till you make it. Now, this is very cliche, right? When people say it, I think it's sort of abstract. People don't know what it means. But I've developed it into my own craft and my own career, and I think I have a pretty good understanding of what it means. And for me, it means saying yes to things that I might not necessarily know, but I know that I'm interested in and I want to move into it. It's taking opportunities, going to places, meeting people. It's like the idea of dressing how you want to be in the future. What is the phrase? Dressing up for the career that you want, dress up, whatever that phrase is. That's what it is. And for me, I've done a lot of that, both in this YouTube channel, right? In the title of this video, I'm not necessarily a full-time artist like I mentioned, but I have made a good amount of money. And again, there's like nuances to that whole phrase, right? Full-time artist. What is a full-time artist? It just depends. Neither here nor there. Fake it till you make it. It's me taking that first environmental studies social media job. It's me applying for these grants, saying some wild stuff that sounds really pretty and flowery, but I have no idea if I could do it or not. And yeah, that's what I urge you to do. If you really do want to do this career, talk to people. Go to events and sort of, you don't necessarily have to full out lie, but you can say that you're interested and things, right? Like if you watch the video and about spray painting, for example, and you're talking to a muralist, you could talk about those things, mention them, and you give the impression that, you are more knowledgeable, because at the end of the day, that's really all that matters. It's all about perception in this game. Art is all about perception. It's not necessarily about skill, right? Especially social media and other grants and abilities and stuff. Like some art YouTubers, some social media gurus, I think are way not good. I think they're way below my skill level, but that's okay because I think they still have things to teach. I think they still have good advice to give. I think the entertainment part of that, right? If they're in social media is important. I think if there's some really famous artists that I don't like their work, and art is all subjective. So as long as you fake it, you have that confidence, you're your biggest fan, you're definitely gonna make it and succeed and do well in this career. But yes, fake it till you make it.